young, we believed or tended to believe almost everything we read in the newspapers, heard on the radio, saw on the television. We often felt that the media tells the gospel truth. There were values such as journalistic accuracy, balance, checking of facts, which we believed the media completely adhered to. However, with the explosion of media, the completely freeing up of media, the entering of private channels, umpteen other publications into the Indian market, in recent years, increasingly there have been doubts that the media tends to manipulate facts to suit its own purposes, whether those purposes are economic, business purposes, purposes of making money, or whether they're ideological purposes, political purposes even. This debate is raging in the country at the moment. There are demands that there should be a content code, there should be some kind of regulation of the unfettered media. Against this context, and against the context of many operations, sting operations, and other such instances where the media has been shown to have, in fact, somewhat failed in its duty to check facts before airing them or releasing them or publishing them, we would like to debate the subject today. This House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes. And to debate the subject that this House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes, I am joined in our studios by an extremely distinguished panel consisting of people whose faces will be familiar to all of you. I have, speaking for the motion on this occasion with me, Jaya Jaitley, the former president of the Samta Party. We have also, speaking for the motion, Paranjoy Guha-Thakurta, media consultant, senior journalist, and whose face is very familiar as one of our anchors on Lok Sabha television as well. Thank you for joining us in our studios. And speaking against the motion, two faces you have seen on television many a time and oft. I have with me Pankaj Pachori, senior editor, NDTV, and Harish Gupta, media consultant and senior journalist, and also a well-known anchor. Thank you very much for joining us in the studios. Before we get down to debating the topic, let me just tell you the ground rules. These are very simple. Each speaker gets 5 minutes to speak for or against the motion, as the case may be. And after all the speakers have had their say, we give them another 2 minutes for rejoinders or any additional points that they may wish to make. Thereafter, we will throw the subject open to questioning from the House. And the House can question any of the speakers individually on anything that they have said. And finally, of course, we will have a show of hands, and the House will decide whether the motion is carried or defeated. Those are the simple rules. It's time now to get down to the debate, but just before we do that, let's take a look at a film which outlines some of the issues that we will be taking up in the debate today.
A hidden camera, a wannabe journalist, the pressure to get something extraordinary, something that catches the eyeballs and turns the fortunes of the channel. The pieces of the story aired by a relaunched channel, Live India, fell apart. The truth was a sting operation that stings. In a market where there are more than 100 players vying for the viewer's attention, the competition is fierce, and there are more channels slated to be launched. All this means there is more competition for the ad revenue. The channels would do anything for lion's share. Today there is a large number of programs based on supernatural themes, crime, cricket and cinema, and also innumerable number of sting operations. They all sell in the marketplace. Even if a particular channel telecasts serious news, the rival channel would telecast something titillating that would raise their TRP. The competition is not just around a particular genre. Even non-rivals are competing. There is intense competition among the news channels and the general entertainment channel. questions are being raised about the content and agenda pursued by the television channels. Whether the news channels follow journalistic principles or their own agenda, or even the agenda of the advertisers. And what are the repercussions? According to a recent statement tabled in the Lok Sabha by the Minister of Information and Broadcasting on the indecent telecast by television channels, there were 11 channels found telecasting indecent programs in the year 2004. The figure increased to 46 in 2005 and 92 in 2006. Media, the fourth estate, the pillar of democracy, the voice of the voiceless. There is no end to the adjectives the media can invent for itself. But at this point in time, it faces the big question. Whether it is a medium of the people or does it pursue an agenda of its own? The media owners have to find an answer before it gets too late. Bureau Report, Lok Sabha Television.
And so, it's time to get down to the heart of the matter. The subject, if you need reminding at this stage, which I'm sure you don't, is this House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes. Let me invite to speak for the motion for the first time, for 5 minutes, Paranjoy Guha Thakurta.
Thank you, Sunit. First, let me clarify that within the media, there are the good guys and there are the not so good guys. So it's not as if the entire media is bad. It's not as if the entire media is always manipulating facts. But let's admit that there is a section within the media which believes it can do anything, it can stoop to any level in the hope of gaining viewers, grabbing eyeballs. We've recently had an example of a school teacher who was duped. It was a pure and simple case of fraud and cheating. Here was this lady, and what happened? There was mob fury, public fury, and her clothes were stripped off her. And can we call ourselves a civilized society? Here is a television channel conducting a sting operation on the basis of falsehoods, untruths. So I think there's something very, very wrong if the media is allowed to get away with this kind of an operation. I'm not against sting operations. If that sting operation has a public purpose, if it's exposing corruption in high places, if it's taking on those who are in positions of power and authority, if it's exposing the corrupt. But what's happening? In the name of sting operations, using hidden cameras, there are television channels who are showing some actor saying that, there's a casting couch in Bollywood. As if that's news. And that's meant to be in a news channel. I mean, the casting couch has existed as long as Bollywood has, and perhaps even older than that. So suddenly, you have a sting operation and you want to pass that off as news. I mean, these are only two recent examples I've given, and I've not named names, but I'm sure all of you here are aware of the channels and the incidents I'm talking about. First, to be fair, this is happening not just in India. It's happening in many, many other parts of the world. I'll give you a recent example. During the Iraq war, there were a group of journalists who were called embedded journalists. They went with the army, they remained with the army, and they only reported what the army had to say. Now, is this what a journalist is supposed to do? You are supposed to provide facts in an objective, independent, fair manner. Here you're giving the point of view of one section, and you're not giving the point of view of others. What happened? I mean, what do the people of Iraq think about the US Army? That part has been completely blacked out. So isn't this an example of manipulation of facts to suit a certain purpose? And this is not just the electronic media, not just the television. Take the case of newspapers. A very prominent newspaper in India, one of the largest circulated newspapers, one of the most profitable organizations, media organizations, they have a wing where they take money to print pictures and write articles. So, I pay so many lakhs of rupees, they print my picture and say, I'm the most handsome man on earth. or an actor says, okay, print my picture, or somebody says, I'm throwing a party and I'm giving you so much money, so you come and shoot the pictures of everybody who's come to my party, and that will grace your page 3. Is this what journalism is supposed to be all about? Is this the role of a media, the mass media, in a democracy? I mean, after all, we are the world's largest democracy, and the media has a certain role. It has a certain obligation. It has a certain obligation not only to its readers, its viewers, its listeners, it has an obligation to society as a whole. We've seen today certain newspapers, certain television channels, they are more interested in the wardrobe malfunction of a model and not if farmers are committing suicide. Is this the correct priorities that a responsible publication, a responsible media organization should have? And you want to say this is what the readers want, this is what the people want. You know, it's a bit like the Bollywood producer who says, I know what the public wants. He wants a bit of sex, a bit of violence, a bit of tragedy, a bit of comedy, a bit of song and a bit of dance. And that's a nice little khichdi, nice little formula. Except that khichdi doesn't taste half as nice as the khichdi your grandmother and my grandmother made. Because it's not easy to make a khichdi. You know, it's an art and a science. So the point I'm making is that today we are seeing sections of the media manipulating facts, abusing the power that they have, abusing the faith that ordinary people have in the media to play a certain role, to provide independent information, facts, all sides of a particular issue, provide a certain historical, a social, a political perspective to events that are going on. And I'm sorry to say that as a media person myself, I've been a journalist for the last 30 years and I continue to be a journalist. I am ashamed that there are sections within the media. I'm ashamed because I am part of the same tribe, part of the same fraternity, that they are showing a complete disregard for facts, for the truth, for objective and balanced reportage. And it's unfortunate because when you have so much competition like you have in India, you expect that competition is going to lead to a certain improvement in standards. But we've seen the opposite happening.
Right.
Competition has led to a race to the bottom. Who can show more crime, more sex, and, promoting superstition among ordinary people, snakes, nagin, bhoot, pret. This is what is unfortunately dominating one section of the media because they think that's what the public wants.
Right.
But I don't think that's what the
time is
public
up,
wants.
But I think you made your point very well indeed. Thank you very much indeed for that very passionate, eloquent argument. It's going to be tough to beat that, isn't it? Fact is that the old journalistic values of objectivity, of verifying your facts before publishing them, of balance, seem to have been given the go-by, as Paranjoy said in his argument. So, to speak against the motion, let me now turn to Pankaj Pachori, who has the slightly difficult task, but I'm sure he's going to do it superbly, of trying to tell us that no, these things have not been given the go-by, these values, journalistic values and ethics have not been given the go-by in today's media scene. And as I say, we're not debating only what is happening in India, although that's largely in front of us, but in the world scene perhaps even. Pankaj.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sunit. And the motion today is the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes, basically. I do not believe in this motion. And the biggest example of not believing in this motion is that we are sitting here in the Parliament House campus, where because of the media, very recently 10 MPs had been thrown out of the parliament, suspended from the parliament because of a media expose. And that just one case shows that how our media is helping our democracy. And this is only one case. Let's go on now. That the media is not manipulating facts to suit its own purposes. Media is, by and large, I agree with the Paranjoy, that by and large the media is, I think, is sticking to ethics, to good journalistic values, but there is a section of the media which may or may not be. It depends on their point of view. Other people will talk about it. But by and large, I think the media is sticking to its ethical points. One example I gave you, this, and it's a big thing that the Lok Sabha TV is having this debate here, which has been on the target of the media. for a very long time and continues to be the target of the media. And now we have this kind of a democracy in our country that we can sit here in Lok Sabha and talk about such issues. Now let's go back to other exposes which we have done. In this expose, MP-led scam. The MPs were found that they were not using their local area development funds properly. And the Secretariat of the Parliament had to pull them up. The CAG of this country, Comptroller of Auditor General, the CVC of this country, they said the same thing, that the MPs were misusing their local area funds. Now, other big things, if we talk about facts and what media has done lately, 82 employees of Delhi Sales Tax Office were suspended after a media expose that how they were taking bribes openly in their office. More than a dozen employees of country's biggest jail, Tihar jail, were found to be corrupt and taking money, and they were suspended. And there were court cases, and the courts found that they were corrupt and they shouldn't have been doing what they were doing. Next, other media exposes. We on our channel had an expose that how the prosecution and defense counsels in a very big case of culpable homicide were talking to each other and fixing a deal that how to get the accused off the hook. We are very proud of these kind of things. The Supreme Court is now seized of the matter, and there are contempt charges against both the lawyers. We did a sting operation on the capitation fee in the Maharashtra colleges. The Ministry of Education of Maharashtra has had to take a decision on that, and capitation fee was banned after that. The principal who was doing that, found guilty, was removed from that. Again, the credibility of the media in newspapers. You look at the newspapers, I'm just talking about the last 4 or 5 years. The Indian Express had a whole expose of petrol pump scams, that how the petrol pumps in this country were being distributed to the friends and relatives of a particular party. The Supreme Court stepped in, and all those petrol pump allotments had to be annulled. In the Bihar flood scam, the Supreme Court and the High Court both, they found that there were irregularities during the flood relief distribution, and they do that. And the list goes on and on and on. And Jayaji is here, and there's been a case which I think was the first case in India, which was about that how the bribes were being taken by the defense establishment in defense deals, and after that, 2 of the same official, which were part of the investigation of the media by the Tehelka team, were found guilty by the CAG. So, media may make mistakes. I can understand that media sometimes makes mistakes. But by and large, media in India is responsible, and I stand against the motion that we are here to serve our own purposes.
Right. Thank you very much, Pankaj. You've given a lot of examples to counter the examples given by Parun Joy. And in the end, you say that there is good, there is bad, but on the whole, you prefer to believe that the media sticks by the truth and has values, and it helps a lot in exposing corruption at the moment in India. Well, thank you very much. Let's now take the opposing point of view. Jaya Jaitley, I know you have very strong views on this particular subject. We'd like to hear you for 5 minutes speaking for the motion that this House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes.
I think we have digressed a little bit. Nobody says that exposés should not be done. I don't think an expose means manipulation. So maybe one should go back to study what exactly does manipulation mean, what exactly is news, and how does all this actually come about. My partner for the motion started with the recent sting operation. if you look at that, everybody will say, yes, the media does manipulate. But I don't want to just peg my argument on that. It's very easy to say, see, there's your example. Simple, I don't have to argue anymore. In fact, I will say that the media has a lot of arguments which they themselves give. I haven't heard it from that side, but I'll give it for them. One thing they say is that the media is part and parcel of a democracy. So that democracy in India is a bit chaotic, it's a free-for-all. So what they do, they should do. The other thing they say about the media is that it reflects the realities of society. So if the media is showing what society is actually like, we are also getting to see that the media is a part of that society. If society is cheating and being corrupt, and this society, I will add also sections of the judiciary, sections of the executive, sections of the legislature, and also therefore the media. That is the reality of our society. And the third thing the media will always say is that, of course, the media is living in a commercialized world. Now, when did this commercialized world start? It started in 1990. I don't know how many of you watched television at that time, but when satellite TV first came, there was a black screen with a white ad. It wasn't an ad, but it was a very interesting message. It said, but for us, there would be no news. Who was the us? Advertisers. By speaking on behalf of all advertisers, we were told that you would not get any news unless there was sponsorship of the programs. So in fact, the commercial advertisers were saying that it was thanks to them. They were doing you a great favor by bringing you the news. And it made us think that before this, how did we get the news? When there were no advertisers, did we not get any news? Were we all clueless? But this was a very dangerous message which I felt at that time, because it said that you better watch out. Unless you put money into it, you're not going to get the news. And when you say that you are purveying the news, then it's not a very far journey into deciding what is going to be part of the content. Today, every television channel knows that for entertainment, particularly, for news, for views, they actually have to see whether their sponsors are happy with the TRP ratings. And if the masses claim to like sex and violence, then the TRP ratings have to go towards crime and sex and violence. And if you have news and views, then shove a bit of that in too. And it's not just sex and violence. The third thing is bad politicians. If you show bad politicians, everybody will clap. So these are your three things for TRP ratings. Now, the Editors Guild has very recently rejected this new broadcast bill that was sought to be brought by saying that it will increase the clout of the government in manipulating news. And it said that it would also become a benign and malign influence. Now, does that mean that the press should be allowed to manipulate because the government should not be allowed to manipulate? It's two sides of the same question. I'm not saying that the government should be in it at all, but then the press has to understand that they do manipulate, and who is going to stop that? When you have the Editors Guild saying that they shift the goalposts and there is a malign influence, then there is also a benign influence, which I'd like to tell you. It's a very interesting exercise I did.
Very briefly, because time is almost up.
Yeah. A small advertisement in the newspaper of 10 by 8 centimeter size costs 50,000 rupees if you want to advertise a handicrafts exhibition. And how much does a full page cost? If you calculate that, it costs at least 5 to 6 to 7 lakhs. How many advertisements do government departments and state governments take full page ads and half page ads promoting their government and their leaders with government money? I have calculated that 7 newspapers across the country, one ad on one day, 20 crores. If you're putting 20 crores into a newspaper, do you think that they will reject benign influence? If you're saying that you need sponsors to get the news, then here is a very nice surrogate sponsor also. Whichever the government, every government likes to control, every media does not like control, but this is how surreptitiously the control actually comes in. And the media make themselves victims of this particular thing.
Right. Thank you very much. You made a very, very valuable point there, which is that advertising revenues control media, and therefore the media is susceptible to be controlled, whether by private advertisers or even, as you were saying, by government patronage to media organizations. Thank you very much indeed for that very valuable insight. We turn now to our last speaker in the first round, Harish Gupta ji. I request you to speak for 5 minutes against the motion that this House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes.
Well, I think the issue before us is, does media manipulate facts? Now, one view I heard, and one example given by Pranjay Guha Thakura, that there is a newspaper chain that takes money and publishes your photograph. It is not manipulation. You pay and get your photographs published. So the money that goes into the pocket of a reporter or a photographer is going straight into the coffers of the the newspaper. So it's all white, taken across the window by check. So it is not manipulation. Anybody can go. Page 3 is available. I don't know whether right or wrong. I am not justifying that whether that kind of journalism was right, or a reporter taking a bribe and a photographer taking a bribe and publishing the picture was right. If at all anybody was taking bribe, I don't know whether they were taking bribe or not. But the management took the decision in the wake of reports reaching to the management by those very celebrities. Okay, look, this is what we are doing. So I agree with Jaya Jaitley ji that the government manipulates. She was part of a government that was manipulating. Every government manipulates. Government job is to manipulate. That is what the example given by Pranjay Guha Thakura, that Iraq war journalists were manipulating. Why they were manipulating? They were manipulating in national interest. Can our reporter go to the war front and report against the country? No. They have no business to be writing against the country. They can, but then that is anti-national, that is treason, and you will be behind bars.
Yeah.
Fine. That go to the human rights, but it will be treated as treason. So 5 examples I have heard. And this debate emanates only from the Uma Khurana case. Now every channel, every newspaper in this country now seeking citizen journalists. You all are citizen reporters. You all are carrying cameras. You can always record the conversation. You can always record a picture and send it to a news channel. Or send it to Indian Express. Or Times of India. Or Hindustan. Or any other paper. If you are caught doing that, as Mr. Tiwari was caught the other day, I am not justifying what Mr. Tiwari was doing. I mean, doing a sting on an MP. Now, what is a sting? A sting is basically an investigation. Now, shall we stop investigation? Who will draw this line that what is investigation, what is sting, what is manipulation? That is only for the management of the channel or the editor to decide. There is a very thin line, like for a public servant, what is private in his life and what is public in his life. There is a very thin line. So you have to decide in your own conscience what is right, what is wrong. Manipulation is the way on the other side. If I was in the government, I was sitting in the defense ministry, I was doing a deal, I was making money for the party, or I'm not saying whether she was making money for the party, no. Her tape was doctored a bit. I know that. But if you see the totality of this scam, Mr. Bangaru Lakshman was taking a bribe himself. Seeking bribe. She was not seeking. So there is a difference between entrapment and money being paid. In the Uma Khurana case, it was a supervisory failure. I don't know whether my friends will agree or not, but I believe it's a complete failure of supervisory role. Was it manipulation? Manipulation at what level? Everybody will manipulate, but that is at the level of the management. One must see why it is being manipulated. That is a different thing. It's an isolated case where something has gone wrong. But my view is, 4 examples are given. One was about this Uma Khurana casting couch. I don't know. I consider myself a public servant. The moment I am in the media, I have to be answerable to everything I do. Whosoever is in public life is a public servant. Because I thrive and survive because of the public. You owe your survival to the public.
Right.
So journalists are public servants.
Right.
In my view.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. You've spoken very eloquently and passionately, and I think a lot of people were nodding their heads when you were speaking. You were saying that all journalists are public servants, and there has been a failure of management. Well, this is precisely the supervisory level.
I am not saying management, because at what level the supervision is being done.
So, but that is precisely the point we are debating
there
right
is a
now.
difference,
Are journalistic ethics being given the go by at whatever level in media organizations? The old dictum that you had to check your facts, check that the sources were correct before you went public, before you published, is that being followed or not? That is the heart of the matter that we are trying to get to. But we will have another round right now in a short while when each of our speakers will come back with their own rejoinders or any additional points that they might have. But before we do so, here's a short break. To offer rebuttals, rejoinders, or additional points. So let's start off, because our debate has been getting slightly heated. Let's start off right now with Paranjoy Guhathakurta. Paranjoy, you have 2 minutes for your rebuttals, rejoinders, additional points, whatever you wish.
Okay, I'm going to go very quickly because in 2 minutes I'm going to give you 3 examples. One from the United States and 2 from India. In 1980, Janet Cook, a reporter of the Washington Post, she got a Pulitzer Prize for reporting about Jimmy, an 8-year-old boy who was supposed to be addicted to heroin. Later on, it was found that the entire story was a fabrication, and she had to return the Pulitzer Prize, which was the most prestigious prize given to journalists in the United States of America, and Washington Post had to apologize to the local authorities. It's a longer story. Take a recent case, 2005. Couple of television channels highlighted the story of Guria, a poor Muslim woman whose first husband she thought had gone away, but he had been in a jail in Pakistan. By the time he came back 5 years later, she had married again. She was pregnant with the son of her second husband. The first husband wanted to remarry her. Her life became a reality show. And then what happened on the New Year's Day 2006, when Guria died, the media had forgotten her. Take the case of what happened that month, January 2006. Gopal Krishnan Kashyap. He was a poor hawker from Patiala in Punjab. He killed himself in front of 20 television camera persons who shot pictures of him dousing himself with petroleum fluid and killing himself. I mean, are they camera persons first or are they human beings first? This is the question I'm asking. So I believe the media has an important role to play as a social auditor to ensure transparency, to ensure accountability, but the media must introspect. You know, the media is free to criticize politicians, government officials, business persons, everybody. The media should look inward, should introspect and weed out the black sheep within its midst, those who transgress, those who cross that Lakshman Rekha. They should have systems in place. I agree with what Harish said. There should be greater supervision, greater accountability to see that a few black sheep do not tarnish the reputation of the entire profession by behaving in a completely unethical and unprincipled manner. This is what I want to say.
Thank you very much indeed. Just within time, you managed to finish your points. You got your mental clock ticking away perfectly. Who should control the media? This is the point. You know, whether media should introspect and control themselves and set up some mechanisms perhaps, collaboratively, or whether there should be a content code which the government would have to step in and do. That is the issue that also crops up in connection with this particular debate. And we might have views on either side on this. Let's turn now to Pankaj Pachori for his rebuttal and rejoinder for 2 minutes on the subject. This House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes.
Two things here. What Paranjoy talked about, the how media is manipulating, he gave some more examples. I don't want to give more examples. I just want to say the heart of the matter here is that the media, by and large, is fair, and the media is actually helping our democracy in a big way. We are talking about glass half full and half empty. I'll say the glass is 90% full. Now 10% we have to address. And that I agree, the 10% of the glass we have to address, because media, as Jaji also said, has become a big business. Now media is not what Gandhiji used to practice media as in his magazine Harijan, which used to sell 6,000 copies and it used to shake an imperial power. Now media in this country is a big business. We have 26 companies at the last count who are listed at the Bombay Stock Exchange, which has a total market cap of more than 40,000 crore. It's a very big business. Last year the media's advertisement revenues you are talking about was more than 979 crore. What we have to do here is, we have to have some sort of a mechanism or regulation about dividing these two things. One part of the media is the creativity, is the editor, is the journalist who's writing about the people, who's all the issues I talked to you about. We've also done exposés on why people in Vidarbha are committing suicide. We've also done a lot of positive things. So that's one part of the media, which is the creativity, which is the need to inform the public. Second part of the media is the business part, because it's a very big business. We are sitting here, this whole program is getting to you by very expensive technology. We have to divide these two. We need a regulation, like we need regulation for any business in the world, for that part of the media, and for this part of the media, we need to have a code of conduct, an ethical code of conduct, which we are in the process of evolving right now. That's what I would like to say to both of you. What you have said, but I would still say that media, by and large, is not manipulating facts to serve its purpose.
Right. Thank you very much, Pankaj. By and large, 90% of the media, Pankaj says, is not manipulating facts. It's only 10%. Now, people might have different perceptions about the percentage of manipulative media and non-manipulative media. But let's now turn to our next speaker for the motion, Jaya Jaitley ji, to please take 2 minutes to give her rebuttals, rejoinders to anything that might have been said so far in this debate, or to any other points that might occur.
One thing I'd like to say very quickly, that there's a death penalty. We are against it because we say it's better to let 10 criminals go than to hang one innocent man. And therefore, if the media is by and large okay, but 10% of the media goes to attack people who are innocent, then they are hung before the public eye 20 times over every day, because those channels go on repeating those same things every day. It's part of the manipulation. Repetition, editing, camera angle, stage managed events, all this is part of manipulation. I know for a fact, when the Gujarat riots were getting over, things were calming down. There was a picture in many papers which showed a family of people with their saman on their head running. And it showed as if they were still being attacked and they were still running. One newspaper, the Economic Times, had the decency to show the whole picture, exactly the same picture, with 2 army people on either side of them, protecting them and taking them away. There was a big difference in that story. Now tell me, what does editing do? Crop the picture, some copywriter or somebody will say, and you crop the picture and change the whole story. Editing does the same thing. My friend Harish mentioned the great defense episode. 100 hours was edited to 4 hours. What did they cut out? What did they say over there? And if any of you media students would like to do a good exercise, let me give you this piece of work. Compare this Uma Khurana exercise, compare that. Both are stage managed. both are impersonating, both are cheating, both are pretending, bringing call girls, both are stage managing events and saying something to somebody and making it out that the story is something else. It's a very interesting study, and because that was such a big tamasha, which was funded with 6 crore of rupees, admitted, shown on TV for 80 lakhs, admitted. Tell me what is business and what is news and what is manipulation and what is not. Who can say? Should it be left to everybody's conscience, or should there be a code in which the public, the government, the media, everybody comes to some agreement? Otherwise, it should not be just the government or just the media. Then all of us innocent victims will fall between both stools.
Right. Thank you very much, Judge Jaitley, for that very, very passionate rejoinder. Thank you. I think the need for regulation is across the board. Everybody is saying there is a need to regulate. Nobody denies that. And that, of course, nobody would deny, perhaps, that the media has come to a stage where some kind of regulatory mechanism is needed. Who is to do that is the question. Jayji suggests that we should have some kind of amalgam of government, media, as well as the public. Should the media do it themselves, as our people who are speaking against the motion are suggesting? Who should do that? You can also ask questions later on. But right now, let me turn to Harish ji. Harish Gupta ji, you have 2 minutes for your rejoinders, rebuttals, speaking against the motion.
You see, I am unable to understand so far a single example of how media is manipulating in India. I can help him. I can help him.
Don't change sides now.
No. I can help him by citing how media manipulated.
Please do.
You saw that story on television about the Meerut Ashik garden mein baith ke unki photo. Remember the huge story that ran for the whole day? That was manipulation. Nothing new in that garden story. It can happen in any garden in Delhi or in Bombay or anywhere. The only thing is, the SHO of the area was tipped off by a local journalist कि चलो हम कुछ फोटो बनाएंगे, कुछ बढ़िया होगा. You know, you come, we'll shoot, we'll show, and it is going to be a big story. Now, the SHO got trapped into that. What she is mentioning, and I 100% agree with her, whether entrapment is a crime or not. Is entrapment a crime? I can give him another example. Self-immolation of a Punjab guy. You all saw harrowing tales of that person who died. Local journalists who were having cameramen, all citizen journalists like you want to all become journalists in television. And the only thing the editor will ask, what is the breaking story you have brought for me? So you have to create that breaking story. And you need that breaking story to go for the TRP. And the government also will give advertisement only to those channels and those papers who have either the largest circulation or who have the highest TRP. The private advertiser will also give the same story, same advertisement only to those people who are successful. So because the television growth, the media growth is 22% in this country, highest growth. The average growth is 9%. So it's all big business.
Right.
So nobody can control big business.
Right. Thank you, Harishji. Thank you for that. I think you very, very blatantly and clearly stated that this is a business. The TRP is what drives us, and that is what is going to always matter. As to whether things are checked beforehand or whether the facts are checked or not is going to be secondary. You have said that very clearly and openly, and I thank you for making a very clear statement on this point. This is where, on this rather fierce debate, we're going to take a bit of a break, after which we'll be coming back and asking the House to put their questions to each of our speakers. And I'm sure our House is a very intelligent House. It consists of people who are mostly students of mass media, communications, journalism. They will have a lot of questions to ask. We'll all do that. We'll let you ask as many questions as you like in just a little while. But before that, a short break.
मैं हूँ मृणाल, मिलना चाहेंगे मुझसे? आ रही हूँ मैं लेके कुछ बातें खास, बहुत जल्द आपके पास।
Welcome back to the heart of the matter, where things are really heating up slightly. We are now going to be opening the debate to the House. The House can ask questions of all our speakers. Please raise your hands. I shall identify you. You identify yourself, and you ask your question to a specific speaker. I'm sure you have plenty of questions, so let's try and get this done as fast as possible. May I know who would like to ask the first question? Gentleman in the front row.
Hello, my name is Avnish Singh. My question is directed to Hariji. I wanted to ask a simple thing. He talked that media has become a very big business. I agreed. But how far the ethics? I'll just like to give a small example.
Very briefly, please.
Yeah, very briefly. I opened a page of Hindustan Times classifieds, a commercial section, whatever it is, many times. On the second page, almost 1/3 of the paper, it's filled with the ads like massage services available, hotel home service available, and any kind of service available, foreign models available. And how far do you think it's ethical? Supposing somebody tomorrow wants to give an ad for a brothel, will the newspaper accept it?
You see, what exactly I was trying to tell you, that it is your vision what is manipulation. I gave two examples primarily to say that it was the self-immolation was not manipulated. You were, encouraged by the local journalist. Local journalists have to get a story. Now, in what category you will say whether they were manipulated or not? Now, a Meerut story also, whether they were not entrapment. The girls and boys were not sent to that garden. Now, your example, what I am saying, that once, on one hand, you are saying liberate, right to information, CIC, you have transparent government, you have everything open to the public, and suddenly you say, don't manipulate. Now, manipulation is that if it is anti-you, it is manipulation. If it is pro-me, it is very good.
But Harishi, may I just intervene and ask you to answer the specific question put to you, which is that, is it ethical for newspapers to carry any kind of advertising, forget about news, advertising, just because they're getting money? Or is there some ethics to the advertising, the advertisements that they will say? Let's start with that.
The basic fundamental of advertising is money. Number one, earlier there were ethics that advertisement will not be more than 20%. Let me tell you, in good old days, they used to say 10% advertisement is fine. The example which he gave, Pachauri Gandhiji, no advertisement. There was a magazine called Seminar. There was a magazine, so point of view, they all died their death because there was no advertisement. They were fighting for a cause.
Okay.
Let me just complete. So the point is that times have changed. What is the mission before media? The mission before media is, it depends how you see it. Right. For me, the mission before media is expose, facts, truth. For others, make money. Now, I don't know what is manipulation.
Right. Thank you very much. Pankaj just wanted to say a few words on this.
I just wanted to say something about that whole advertising thing. There is an Advertising Standards Council of India, which actually pulls out ads if they find it vulgar, in bad taste or indecent. There's a whole system of this government. There is something that if there's an ad which hurts someone, the person who's publishing that can be punished. These ads, what you're talking about, are going by all these parameters, are absolutely legal and fine ads. I mean, we cannot put, we have a system to deal with advertising.
Right.
And
you're saying that this adheres to the Advertising Standards Council?
It adheres to the Advertising Standards Council.
At least the letter, if not in the spirit. Yeah. Thank you very much. Very swiftly, Jayji also wants, everybody wants to have a say on this particular point. No, very briefly, but because we run out of time and we won't be able to address other questions.
At one level, if you don't like a newspaper because it does all these things, don't buy the newspaper. That's the only thing that will actually hit them. It's the way TRP. If you don't like a certain channel, don't watch it. That is also one other view. And I think if everybody consciously attacks a channel by shutting it off and lowering its TRP, maybe it will learn a lesson.
And also by being vocal, perhaps, and bringing their view to the floor. Yes, Parun.
Sunit, one point first. Seminar still publishes every month, for your information. Secondly, this whole TRP game, it's a mug's game. There are 120 million television sets in India. 80 million of those households owning television sets have cable and satellite connections. The TRP figures are based on data provided by people meters, 7,500 meters. The sample size is 0.0001% of the total sample size. Now you say you want to check your blood, you need a drop to know what blood group you have. This is the logic they give, that these samples are well structured. There's not a single people meter in any rural area. There's not a single people meter in the entire northeast. There's not a single people meter in Jammu and Kashmir. Yet, because for the absence of any other kind of data, based on this narrow sample, thousands of crores of rupees, as has been pointed out, are being spent. So what I want to say is we need more scientific and better systems of ascertaining what people really want, what viewers really want. And as Jayaji said, you have the choice, you have the remote button in your hand, you press it. That's the best way you can shut out what you consider bad from your household.
Thank you, Paranjoy. Audience, questions. The gentleman at the back.
Hello everyone, I am Sahil from MAIT. I want to ask my question to Mr. Harish.
Ji.
He himself said that the media is manipulating, whether it is for nation interest or for business. It can be at supervisory level also, but the true news is not coming to us. Then it is manipulating.
I think what I am saying that I am unable to fathom what is manipulation. It is your vision and your interpretation of manipulation. If you don't like it, it is manipulation. If you like it, it is very good. Which is in national interest is not manipulation. But my friend Mr. Pranjay Guha Thakra says even if it is anti-national and if it is truth,
We'll say in Iraq, if the reporters are going with American press, then it's manipulation. But if the reporters are going to Kargil with our government, it's not manipulation. Indian media has done a very good role. It's played a very good role in Kargil war.
Thank you. Thank
not
you.
to anybody else.
I think you've sparked off even more questions amongst the audience. The lady over there.
I am Neha Pant from LSR. I want to ask Mr. Pankaj that you said 90% of people, suppose a news channel, are good and 10% are those which bring that, you can say, bad news. So what makes that 10% go bad?
The pressures of what he was talking about, making money, the pressures of what she talked about, of government influence or getting advertisements from the government, all these pressures work on these people. The thing now is that we have to think about that these 10% people, they have to be regulated and they have to be, I think, now read a riot act basically.
What is your solution? Should it be the government? Should it be the media itself?
My solution is that the media is going to mature and it's going to mature very fast. That these people, the bad apples, as we say, will be out of the basket very soon. There will always be bad apples. Just because 10 MPs have been found in parliament who were trying to take bribes to ask a question in the parliament, it doesn't mean that more than 750 MPs who are in the parliament, they are all corrupt. No. So, self-regulation, number one thing. Number two, peer pressure. If people who are good media, the 90% people, they are going to put pressure on these people that you stop this. You stop this, otherwise you are going to invite some sort of a regulation which we don't want. That's the kind of pressure. And the last pressure is from the viewer. I think in media, it's like in democracy, you vote with your remote. Don't watch, as she said, what you don't like.
So, in the center, the lady there, in the blue.
Should sensationalizing an inconsequential fact or an inconsequential aspect of a fact come under the ambit of fact manipulation? And by that argument, can we say that the media can be accused of manipulation of facts?
It's a very good question. Unfortunately, in many democracies, in many parts of the world, good news is no news. Bad news is good news. As the old saying goes, you see, if dog bites man, it's not news. When man bites dog, it becomes news. Unless dog bites the Prime Minister or Aishwarya Rai, then it becomes news. You see, the media is a little obsessed with the bizarre, the sensational, the unusual. So that's a problem that we have with media. But I am not overtly worried because I think the reader, the viewer, the listener is more intelligent. And she or he can make out the difference between what has been hyped up and sensationalized and what is relevant and real.
So ultimately, perhaps there's no need for media regulation at all because the viewer will decide anyway. No, I'm just being slightly flippant. Next question, please.
Hello, sir. I'm Rajiv from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. My question is for both of you. Don't you think you are advocating negative journalism, Mr. ABC being exposed because of taking bribe, Mr. XYZ being trapped in something else? And don't you think media has a greater role and responsibility to play to educate people and to, inform people?
They have limited themselves to this, yes.
Let me tell you, the question before us is, does media manipulate facts? My answer is no, no and no. We don't manipulate. There is no need to manipulate. Because you have plenty of things before you all the time, throughout the day, wherever you go. You see things, you are a reporter. The only thing is you do not have a channel to report, you do not have a newspaper to publish that report. I have been repeatedly saying that it is for the supervisory level that they should realize what direction they should give, how they should monitor, how strictly that monitoring can be done.
We are very young democracy. 260 million people, Indian people, are still living under poverty line. There are so many challenges before us. And if we start talking about 60% of what is good about this country, I think we'll be doing a disservice. That will be manipulating. If we don't talk about what's happening in our country and what is wrong with our country, we must talk about what's good with our country. That's what I'm saying. I'm also talking about what's good with the media. There's bad with the media. That's what I'm saying, that we have to always we have to inform people, we have to educate them, and we have to also keep the system of governance on its, I think, toes.
Oh, without doubt. Nobody would dispute that.
That's the role of the media.
Right. Next question, please.
I'm Gaurav from Maharaja Agharsin Institute of Technology. I would like to ask that you are part of NDTV, which is a 24/7 news channel, and you want breaking news every hour. And I don't think you have any alternative other than manipulation of facts.
No, we don't want.
I think that's a very pertinent question.
No, we don't want breaking news every hour. NDTV, I must tell you this thing, that we have done the kind of news which Jayaji was talking about, positive news, which has won international awards. So, if you're talking about the media is only showing you bad things, forget it. We are being asked by other countries to go there, set up news channels. We are doing that in 3 countries right now.
May I just broaden the debate a bit? It's not about a particular channel or anything like that. What he's saying is that in a culture where you have 24-hour news channels, which require breaking news for driving their TRPs, don't you manipulate facts to create breaking news?
No.
That is it.
No, because...
Please.
No, because the breaking news is only used by people who are lazy. I can tell you news which is not breaking in this country, which, as Jayaji said, has been interestingly told to people and people would watch it. You don't have to fall on the cricket, cinema and crime category. If you work hard, make good programs, they will be watched and they will be, I'm telling you, they will be sold worldwide.
All right, one last question. That lady was looking very disappointed here in the front.
मेरा सवाल ठाकुर दास से है. आपने बोला कि कोई भी जर्नलिस्ट होता है वो वहां जाके देखता है कि कोई किसी को पीट रहे हैं या किसी को सता रहे तो वो शूट करता है, उसे बचाता नहीं है. तो मेरा कहना है कि वो कोई भी अपना काम करता है तो वो 100% करता है. एग्जाम्पल अगर कोई भी कैप्टन अगर प्लेन को उड़ा रहा है तो वो उड़ाएगा, किसी को वहां हार्ट अटैक आ गया तो उसे बचाने नहीं जाएगा, वो अपना काम करेगा.
I disagree with you. And let me tell you why I disagree with you. Abetting suicide is a crime under the Indian Penal Code. I say a journalist's first job is to try and prevent a person from committing suicide rather than wait for that person committing suicide and then shoot photographs about it. I think a journalist is a human being first and then a journalist. This is my view.
All right, we've had quite a stormy question and answer session. But we're going to take a slight break now and come back for the final crux of this particular program, which is when we will ask our audience to vote, the House to vote, as to whether the motion has been carried by those who spoke for the motion or whether it's been defeated by those who spoke against the motion. We'll be right back after a very short break. That very, very invigorating debate about media, whether it manipulates facts for its own purposes or not. We have come to the absolute heart of the matter, and that is the decision which is entirely in the hands of the House, our audience, consisting of mostly media, communications and journalist students and other students as well. They're going to decide whether they have been convinced by the arguments put forward by the people speaking for the motion or those speaking against the motion. May I remind you, the motion was this House believes that the media manipulates facts to suit its own purposes. I would request you to decide to vote purely on the basis of the arguments you have heard here today in this debate and not on the basis of any preconceived notions that you might have. So, may I ask the House now whether they believe that the speakers for the motion have carried the motion or not. Those who believe that they have, please raise their hands. That seems to be a significant majority. And those who believe that the media does not manipulate facts to suit its own purposes, who believe with the people speaking against the motion, raise your hands. I think we are still more or less evenly poised. And so I will have to declare the fact that this debate is tied once again. That means the jury is still out as to whether the media manipulates facts or not, and this is an opinion carried forward by people who are intimately associated with the media, who are being affected by the media, who are consumers of the media. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Parunjoy. Thank you, Jayji. Thank you very much, Pankaj. And thank you, Hariji, for being with us. And thank you, all of you, for being with us on this particular edition of The Heart of the Matter. We hope to see you all again next time we take to the air with another edition, debating another topic. Until then, it's goodbye.